What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Death Stranding 2 on the beach and why I am getting this game. This is a video series I do where I talk about an upcoming game and talk about where I stand on it. And for this one, oh my goodness. Now, look, I'm recording this, I think, with a little bit extra kind of confidence because when I'm recording, about 9 days ago, I have completed Death Stranding, and I went through it from beginning to end, restarted the game, and back in the day, I put in around 10 or so hours, but I never went all the way through. Okay, I looked up the ending, I looked up the story, thought I got a good handle on it, or had a good handle, and I lost it. The memory's okay, but it's not what it used to be, whatever. And, so now I go back in, I play through the entire thing, and I have a newfound appreciation, for this game, the first game. It's not perfect. I think it's specifically made for certain people, and if you're not in that group, you're going to have a hard time. But I just really, really respect this game, and I'm so unbelievably excited, even for its flaws, because, again, it's not perfect even to me. There's some things that kind of just didn't click for me. But I cannot stress enough how excited I am to jump into the second game, especially, with all that we've heard, even if we didn't hear anything, okay? Just the trailers that we've seen and this idea of it being bigger and better, right? Now, we've been told that. We've been told the Metal Gear 2 kind of moment for Kojima and all that stuff, but just seeing it in front of you and seeing the new mechanics and the environmental things, right? So now there's floods, now there's earthquakes, now there's this stuff. Seeing just the improvements made to combat and the way of tackling certain situations. And then, to me, the biggest thing, and I'm a big lore and story guy, so it really was up my alley, I freaking love, and I even got my wife. I think my wife's very much like me in that way. I don't think she would like to actually play the game, but we were connected in terms of, the theme of the game. We watched those cutscenes, and we just took it all in. All of the weirdness, all of the wildness, that was going on. My wife and I just took it all in, and I think we're ready. I think we're really ready to figure out if Elle Fanning is really playing Lou or not, to figure out, what's going on with Higgs in the second game, Fragile, all these characters. I'm just so ready, honestly, first and foremost, okay? Because I wonder how it's going to work with gameplay. I'll talk about that in a second. But from the story, just give it to me, right? Pump it in my veins. If you want to give me, because, it seems like it's going to be so much bigger, right? Like an unbelievable amount. But now, I do wonder about that because, the people that were flown out there, right, they played, 30 hours of the game, and it made it sound like this game is going to be around 60, 70, 80 hours just to do the main stuff. I am kind of questioning that, though, because it's the first game, if you do just the main stuff, it's probably 25-ish. I spent 33 because I did the main stuff and then some side stuff. I don't know. I find it a little hard to believe that this game is triple the size to just do the main stuff. I feel like the people that flew out there did a lot of optional content in those 30 hours. Maybe they were pushed to do I don't know. I don't want to create conspiracy theories on the fly, but I guess that's what I'm doing. I wonder about the length, but you know what? If it's double the story, it's double the story. Give me those cutscenes and let me get, engrossed in the world. That's something that I think he did such a good job at, honestly, above all else in the first game, because you just really fall in love with so many of these characters, and that's something I really did not take away from the game 5-6 years ago, but I did now. Fragile, awesome character, and we've heard so many good things about her character and her performance in On the Beach that I'm very, very excited to see what they do with her. But Dead Man stood out, Die Hardman, all these people, Sam even, but it took a little bit to go with him. He was kind of a slower burn character, but man, when he hits, and obviously the big twists and Cliff, and if they can do that in this game and even elevate it, I think we're in for a special journey. Now, okay, that's the story, that's the lore, very, very excited for that, and that's the main thing I'm excited for. When it comes to the gameplay, I don't know if I would say I want to be surprised or if I even need to be surprised, because the gameplay in the first game obviously very specific, and I think a lot of those things are going to feel familiar. Okay, it's been 5 years, it's a sequel, but you're going to be building on those foundations. The core idea of walking from this place to that place, or motorcycle, or whatever it might be, I think a lot of the feeling of the game is going to be very, very similar. So if you weren't into that in the first game, I don't know how that's going to be in the second game, but I'm going to assume it's going to be pretty close. I think it's just when I say padding, I don't say it as a negative thing, but the padding is what I think is going to be the expanded upon stuff, right? The natural disasters, that just adds this whole extra layer that we did not have in the first game. The combat, those are really, to me, like the two main things. Like, traversal is something that in the first game, like, it did get more elevated, like, the more you played, right? Like, they threw more obstacles at you, right? Kind of when you get to, like, Mountain Knot City and you had to deal with a lot of the mountains and snow, and my dear God, those were some interesting travels. But, they threw that at you. But as the game went, you had updated ways of getting from point A to point B. They're always upgrading your stuff depending on also, I guess, what you're doing optionally, right? But you're getting new items to use, zip lines and all this jazz, bridges, right? Kind of earlier on, roads, highways, So I feel like a lot of that stuff is just going to return, and I don't, like, again, like, I think the structure, the fundamentals, I really don't think are going to change all that much. So, that's something that, we'll see. Like, I don't know, that might come back to bite me, the fact that I just played the first game, because I did 33 hours of deliveries, right? And it's like, okay, going to the second game, it'll be about 3.5 weeks in between me finishing the first game and then going into the second game. I hope that's enough time to kind of mentally reset, because I truly believe it is a game you got to be ready for. Like, you gotta play it for what it is. You can't. Maybe in this game it'll be a little bit different. Because you're going into, I guess, the combat and stuff. Like, the way they've talked about it, the trailers that they've shown, these kind of otherworldly type situations that you get involved in. It definitely seems like they're going, above and beyond, specifically with the combat and specifically with handling situations. So honestly, maybe that does end up like flowing into the minute to minute, like getting from point A to point B, right? Because, like, for me, I brute forced it so many times. Even, I mentioned the Mountain Knot City stuff. When I was going over these hills, these snowy hills that were just taking me 45 minutes to do deliveries, I would do it on a motorcycle, and I would just brute force it, just go straight through. I would go through BT territories. I would be reckless, in that way, but I would still have to try to sneak, because you have to do certain things in that game. I wonder in this game, like, how is that going to change, right? Maybe a natural event will make something harder or easier for me. Maybe, the fact that it might be more fun to do combat. The combat's fine in the first game. I wouldn't say it's like outrageously fun, and I also wouldn't say I did it almost at all. I really did the combat when you were forced to do it, and that's it. I used stealth everywhere else. So, like, I wonder how that's going to change in this game. There's choices. We know that, Kojima's talked about you do it the way you want to, but which one is, like, more interesting? Which one is more fun? These are all things that, I'm kind of like just circulating, or they are circulating in my mind. I mean, I'm ready. I'm ready to give it what it needs to be given. My full attention, the idea that I know that you're going to be delivering things for hours and hours on end. I just did it. I should be able to mentally reset and be able to do it again. And so that's kind of it. Like, I'm ready for the new stuff. I'm ready for the lore and the story to take more steps. That's the stuff that I really just don't want to be let down on. I mean, that's the stuff that going into an Alan Wake game or going into a Kingdom Hearts, games like this, where lore and story are so important and told in weird ways. They're similar. I think Kojima has a very almost different kind of style, because sometimes he'll just flat out tell you stuff in his games. Like, you might question things. He will tell you. It'll just be like 10 hours later. Whereas, like, Kingdom Hearts, like, they'll tell you 6 games later. Or Alan Wake, you'll have to read everything to figure it out. Death Stranding, they kind of just, like, make sure but it'll be much later in the game, right? And they're kind of throwing all these twists at you. So I'm interested to see, like, again, like the Higgs stuff, and why is this even happening, by the way? Because, like, the extinction ended at the end of the first game, but we know it's kind of back on. So it's like, okay, how does that work? Is Amelie, like, an actual thing? Because I don't think she is. So is Elle Fanning's character the new extinction? So, these are kind of theories, but also, like, honestly, very, I think, pivotal story things that are going to have to play a part in this game. How is Higgs back? What's his character journey? All these kind of things are going through my mind, and they are easily the most, excited that I am for this game. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.